Yo, this hot, this the spot. There it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a comedy podcast to help you find your inspiration. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Thanks so much for being here. Really great guest today. It's a friend and colleague, Julia Schroeder. Can you say colleague when they're on an improv team with you? Does that count? No? Okay, I'm being told no. Wanted to mention something real quick. I submitted for a writing job at a late night talk show that I would love to work at. And I'm bringing it up not to be like, hey, look at me, I'm on the up and up, because I'm sure a million people applied for that. Who knows what will happen? Mine may have gone right into the trash bin. They may have printed it from the email and then thrown it out just for that purpose of throwing it out. I have no idea what's going to happen, but my point of bringing it up is that beforehand, before I started working on the packet, I wasn't thinking very highly of myself. I wasn't sure that I could really do it. And then I wrote it, and I was proud of the stuff that I wrote. I liked it. And I had a sense of accomplishment with it that I would have cheated myself out of had I not gone through with writing it and just ignoring my insecurities telling me that I couldn't. And so it's a lesson in going for it. It's a lesson in putting yourself out there, even if it means making yourself real vulnerable and having to work against that inner voice telling you that you can't. Like, just go for it, because what's on the other side is pretty nice, even if you don't get the gig. Well, let's get to today's episode. I already mentioned that it's with Julia Schroeder. She's great. She's so fun. We have a really fun chat. A little note here, though. The apartment above mine is being worked on, so you're going to hear some noise, especially late in it. And it's too much to ignore, so just know that that's coming. All right, well, here we are. Here's my chat with Julia Schroeder. Julia, my dear friend, you are from Detroit, a place that I've only driven through, really, to go to an airport.
Yeah, you know what? And the airport is outside. Detroit. It's in, like, Romulus.
Right. I drove past 8 Mile, and I remember thinking, hey, 8 Mile. Like, the exit for 8 Mile.
Okay, that's so interesting, because I'm from the suburbs, but my parents' house is in between 7 and 8 Mile. So the exit that we get off of, depending on which way we're coming from, is 8 Mile. Mm-hmm, Do you think that's cool? Do you think that gives me cred?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, cool. I have found that I like people from Detroit, but when I was there, I was not like crazy about it. Pitch me on liking Michigan.
If you're driving through Romulus, then you're not going to like it.
So you grew up in Romulus. And
No. Don't put that on me, Jason. Don't you dare put that on me. The airport is in Romulus.
Oh,
also,
right.
I don't know if that's true, but I think it's like around around there. But anyway, I grew up in a suburb.
The suburbs of, right. And you started doing comedy there. Did you also start acting there? Like, what was your exposure to performance?
So I grew up playing sports. That was my thing. I didn't start improv or anything. I didn't start improv until I was like 22-ish.
Oh, you're out of college.
Yes. Yeah. I always loved comedy. I loved laughing. I grew up, my family is very funny, and we, grew up with the classics. We watched SNL, loved like Mel Brooks movies, and my dad always had us watch The Three Stooges, and he's a big comedy fan. Mm-hmm. So I've just grown up around my both sides of my family are very funny, and I've just been inspired by them first and foremost. But it was never something that I like wanted. It was never something that I like ever thought I would do. I was never like the funny. I was never even the funny one of my family.
You were thinking all about sports because you did a few things.
Yeah, I played soccer and basketball. Those were my main two sports. And then I started running cross country senior year of high school, and then played soccer in college. And then I guess 1 year of basketball as well. And it is funny. I know your question was, when did I start comedy? But actually, like, on my teams, that's like where I feel like I found comedy. Just like always had so much fun. I've said this before, but like I was obsessed with doing bits before I knew what they were. And so much of that like came from those teams and like my best friends who are the funniest people in the world, you know?
Yeah, there is a camaraderie, and that involves joking around in sports. I mean,
Totally.
like it's everyone cutting up on the bus or in the locker room. Hopefully not on the court or field.
Only a little.
Yeah, not too much joking around can go on. Can't really do a bit
I
when you're
did temper
trying
on
to.
the field.
Right. Trying to run a play.
Yeah. We're running two, not doing this dumb bit, Julia.
What sort of, because you do go into improv, and did you notice, I've always felt like there is some kind of kinship, or at least things that people can learn from organized sports in regards to joining an improv team. Have you noticed that at all? Like, that was a hypothesis of mine, but do you have any experience noticing similarities or benefits from coming from sports and going into improv?
I think for sure. I mean, I know like everybody's like experiences sort of shape who they are, and that's just like what it is. But I have thought about this. I feel like one thing I love so much about improv is it's that like connection to other people, and first and foremost, you're supporting everybody else on the team or whoever you're out there with. And I think that's like absolutely something I've learned from sports, where like we are working together as a team. Everyone has their role. Everyone plays a different part. And I think like you don't get anywhere if you can't work well together.
Right.
And I think that absolutely translated. And I think there was something I was completely like missing once I was done with organized sports after college. And it is that like person to person connection and like ensemble sort of like togetherness that you get with organized sports. The ability to just like play with a team and a group of people and like come together and like do something awesome absolutely translated from sports to improv.
Right. I imagine trust is also a part of it. And also when it comes to learning plays and how everyone's individual role can help the overall play and overall game work. Is also something that would translate, because if you're doing an improv show together, knowing the different elements and how you can contribute to the structure of a show and how improv works and work in concert with other people can help shows overall work.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what I thought of, not even something in my own life, but we've been watching The Last Dance, and just like totally obsessed with it. And it makes me think about, I think about like the different personalities on those Bulls teams, like, and how like they all knew what each other were bringing. And the thing that like 100% is coming to my mind is how like Dennis Rodman was just like, they had to consider his personality and his needs and his overall character in being on the team. They like had to let him go like run amok in Vegas for like a full 3 days for him to come back and like give everything on the court. And I think that's so nuts. And I think like that like resonates on a comedy team too. You know what people's personalities are. You know what like they're gonna bring. You might feed them different things because of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So funny.
Yeah, there are such different dynamics that you have to adjust to and realize. Like, you can't say, well, everyone needs to just be like this, because that's just not how life works. Mm-hmm. You have to consider that some people aren't going to like practices on weekends or going out to the bar before a show. You know, like there are all these different elements, whereas some people, that's how they would thrive. Having a drink before, an hour before the show or something like that.
Yes. And it's, that's so true. And it's like knowing the makeup of whatever team or ensemble you're a part of and like making it work with that group. And also knowing like what's gonna maintain like stability within the team. You might, act a certain way on one team you're on, and team can apply to either comedy or sports in this situation too. But you might act a certain way on one team, but you have to like play a different role on another team or whatever. And you might sit back and be like, okay, I know we're doing, this team likes doing Sunday morning rehearsals because this is what we've committed to, and we're going to go all in or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas on another team, it's like totally just a different personality.
Were you looking for having that experience again? What was your reasoning for going into comedy?
That's a great question. I think subconsciously I was looking for that outlet. After I think after like, I kind of alluded to it, but sports was sort of an outlet for like performance for me. And I think that's always been a part of me. Before high school, I was in band and dance, and like I loved both of those things, and was like pretty serious about them at the time. And then once high school hit, kind of was like, all right, time to focus on like my priorities, which was always soccer and basketball. But the like performance aspect of like being involved on these teams and in these sports never left me. And I think I really was missing like a group to like be myself around. And I think even more so than soccer and basketball and whatever, I found that in improv. And it really came at a weird time in my life. It was after I graduated from college, from undergrad. And it was in a gap year, and I was applying to grad schools and everything. And I was living at my parents' house, and just I was trying to find a new identity. I've talked about this before in other situations, but I had lost my identity of like for the past like 21 years of my life. For as long as I could remember, I was involved in sports. So it was really like, what now?
Right.
And I also, during that time, just like it was the first time where I really felt like freedom to like watch TV shows. And I found Twitter and like found these different outlets that I was like, oh my gosh, wait, like this comedy world is funny and cool. And it was definitely like, Comedy Bang Bang and those types of podcasts that I was like, okay, these people improvise. And I don't know what that means, except for whose line is it anyway? But someone tagged themselves into like Go Comedy Improv Theater, which is the theater near Detroit. I'd never heard of it before. And I like went to their site and I was like, yeah, I think I need to try this. And then basically never looked back.
That's very interesting to me because it sort of reminds me of when ball players retire. Like famously, Brett Favre had a very hard time hanging up his cleats. But in your case, you were looking for another tribe, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. And I think I had found in that year, like, I think being funny might be part of my identity. I think, like, I mean, people would always, like, I loved laughing. I loved making other people laugh. And I, again, like, loved doing bits before I knew what they were. And so, like, without really understanding what those terms were, what all of it meant, I just, like, realized that I absolutely identified as, like, a loving comedy and that being part of who I was. And so I think once I took an improv class, even just like the warm-up exercise, I just was like, oh, okay, this is a chance for me to, like, have space to, like, say something and be weird, and everyone is, like, just accepting it.
That is sort of the weird thing, I guess, about comedy. Yeah, like you start saying the things that are in your brain that you think no one would like or even hate you for. You say it and people laugh, and it's like, oh, hey, well, that was fun. There's something freeing about that.
Totally. And I think, like, part of who I am is, like, I just say, like, dumb shit, and I don't even think I mean it. And I mean, dumb shit in, like, a very benign way.
You're not saying horrible, offensive things. Yeah.
Being offensive. But I just, like, I think my mouth moves faster than my brain, and sometimes just whatever comes out of my mouth is like, that was so truly idiotic. And I feel like in the past I've been, like, so self-conscious about it in, like, either, professional settings, like, just, like, 18 different filters on what is coming out of my mouth and everything. And in improv, it's celebrated to just, like, say what's on your mind without a filter. And I, in the same breath, have to say that you cannot just say whatever you want in improv. Please don't mistake this for...
That is the sort of thing that when you hear so many comics say, like, oh, you can't say anything anymore. What they're really upset about is that they have to filter it all. And I understand the, like, freedom of no filter, but you do still have to be responsible when you're on a stage talking to a group of people and you have no idea who's in the audience. Like, it's reasonable to throw some filters on to not deeply offend somebody for something traumatic that happened to them.
Absolutely.
And that's all anyone's asking. That's not, like, too much to ask.
Yeah, it's almost like lifting the filter of emotions more than, like, words too, like the ability to just, like, be, like, honest to whatever you're, like, feeling or reacting to in that moment.
That is the hardest thing to do in improv for me, for some reason.
Yeah,
it is so hard. Like, in acting, hard. When you know the line and you know what's coming, it's easier for me to do it then. But in an improv show, I'm like, I don't fully know who I am yet. I don't know if I fully follow what this person wants from me in this scene, which is just me getting in my way, really, because they just want me to be and do something. They don't necessarily want me to do a specific thing. And it can be really debilitating on stage. But I do feel that and this is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you, is your freedom on stage to really accept what's going on and embrace it and be present. And there is a lot of fun that comes from that.
Yes. Yeah. I have a lot of fun improvising.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I love watching you. We were all so excited when you joined our team. And even Justina, girlfriend of the show, she was like, Julia's going to be on Sweetheart. Girlfriend of the show,
Justina. Oh. Well, and it's funny because I always look to Justina as someone like that. I when I watch her, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something so real and immediate about the way she plays, and it's, certain people have that quality where it's just like she's just always in the moment, and she's also someone who's just like always like committing 100%. There's never like a 50% from her. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. I've been saying that for years to her.
Yes.
Because I totally agree. I 100% agree. Everyone who has seen her perform, who's listening, especially people back home, know that that's exactly what they love about her on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And that's like I feel like she exudes the same sort of like joy that I feel when I improvise as well.
Yeah, I would love to see you two perform together because of this.
God, I would love that.
I break a lot with you because of that freedom that you just exude on stage, because you'll do something so surprising and so silly and fun that like I can't keep it in. Like it always catches me off guard. That's why I love doing scenes with you, because I always get caught off guard with you, and I love trying to catch you off guard.
Yeah,
and make you laugh.
Yeah, you do. That's so nice of you to say, and I feel, and that's like especially nice because one, I don't feel like you break a lot, and two, I love doing scenes with you as well because I mean, it's funny also because you said that it's so hard for you to like, or one of the hardest things about improv in general is to react honestly, and when you're improvising, you don't know who you are and whatever. But I feel like you, as an improviser, bring that like grounded acting, and like I just feel like I always get honest acting from you, and that's one of the reasons why I like love doing scenes with you, because it's when someone else like can bring that honesty and know who they are, it makes everyone else kind of like flounder less.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you. I was encouraged early on by a friend, Jen Newsom Bianchi back home, who in like our level 1 or level 2, she was like, "You're such an actor. You're such a good actor." And I was like kind of shocked that anyone was saying that, but also really appreciate and respect her. So I really took it to heart, and I feel more confident in that because of her saying that. And so I still am in my head a lot, but anytime, like you saying that is to me just like a testament to being encouraged by her.
Oh, 100%. Jen Newsom Bianchi, that's her name?
Mm-hmm,
She's right.
Well, thank you both.
Yeah.
Some of the people that I appreciate the most, pretty much all of the people that I appreciate the most in improv are people who are, it's not like watching someone just goof around, even though they're goofing around, but it's like, a TJ and Dave or Jason Mantzoukas, or, countless people. I love that about their performing, because it's like you're watching someone acting, and yet they are just making it up as they go and trying to be like completely ridiculous. And that's
Totally.
That's essentially why I chose The Magnet, because I felt like that's what you get from The Magnet. You see, I saw Chet Siegel, and when you watch Trike or Kornfeld and Andrews or Megan Gray, or like all these different people, you get that. And I was like, well, this is clearly the place I need to train, because exactly what I love most is what is heavily on display at The Magnet.
I 100% agree. Some of the best improvisers I've ever seen are at the Magnet. And I always like think about the balance between like good acting and absurdity. I think that's like my ideal spot in improv. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more satisfying than committing to something and acting it well. There's such joy in that.
Yeah.
But then there's also that piece that's like the absurdity of what we're doing, and like any like situation that we might be put in on stage. I love like turning that stuff on its head, and like also I'm reluctant to say this, but like the meta stuff to a certain extent, and I can like qualify that because I don't think all of it is valuable, but the meta stuff is so joyous to me when things like go off the rails. I mean, the people that I look to that have that perfect like balance is like, I always say this, but Rebecca Robles is like probably my favorite improviser I've ever seen.
Good.
I think she has that.
I love
perfectly.
her.
Yes.
Yeah. On and off stage. You are right. That is a perfect description of how Rebecca plays, because she does have this she's such a good actor. And she like has this presence on stage, and she is so 100% committing, but she will say the most outlandish things and just own it. And it's not like everyone else could be like, what? Like everyone around could be doing that, but she's saying it like it's the most normal thing that someone could have said in that moment. And it's just so absurd and so delightful.
Oh my God. I'm just laughing, like thinking about it.
Me too. Yeah.
It's really.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And the way like Metal Boy plays with each other. I mean, I'll watch her do anything. I'll watch Pat do anything. But the way that they all like play with each other, and Chrissy, the way that they all play with each other is so amazing to me. It's just like
they're an absurd team. Like that is a team that will have absurdity and this like commitment, and I would say body work is also that way, where there's something ridiculous can be going on, but they all have such a presence on stage.
And you know what I think of? Like that brings it back to like trust. There's just like an ultimate trust with these teams. I just think like especially Metal Boy, because I just like love the immediacy and the like spontaneity that they play with. But bodywork for sure. There's just like, there's I mean, Metal Boy has been playing together for years, and there's just like nothing that anyone can do that anyone else is going to be like, what were they going for? It's just like, no, we're just going to like take every second as it comes and know that everyone has each other's back. It's just like, it's like very fun to watch. Yeah.
And I think, what you're saying, about how teams working together, that is absolutely what a team can strive for. There are a lot of building blocks to that, or I shouldn't make it seem like so many building blocks and it'll take forever to build them. But what people like about those teams is that trust that they have to just do anything together and not hold back. And that takes so much trust in one another and knowing what can be accomplished if you work together, I guess.
Totally.
I like it. So when you started in Detroit, like what you started at what was the name of the theater?
Go Comedy Improv Theater.
And isn't there another theater in Detroit?
There is, yeah. Okay, so there's also Planet Ant, which is Go Comedy is technically in Ferndale, which is just north of Detroit, and then Planet Ant is in Hamtramck, which is sort of like a pocket inside of Detroit. Detroit's actually kind of a big city, and Hamtramck is a little pocket inside of Detroit. And Planet Ant was the one that was started by Keegan-Michael Key.
Right.
Back like, I don't know, 20 years ago or so.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew that he started, was doing improv there and had big roots there. I wasn't sure if you were at that theater.
Yeah, I've done a few things there. My home base was Go Comedy, but they are like a little bit, the communities just like blend big time. And one of my main kind of team back in Detroit was named Reclassify Pluto, and we were together for few years before people moved away and whatever. But we did like the Planet Ant. There's like a competition every summer-ish, and we won that competition. And the like reward basically is you get to write a show with one of their home team members, or really like one of their main like directors. So we got to write a one-act play, and our director's name is Mike McGettigan, and one of just like the most fantastic directors ever. And our it was like one of my favorite things that I've done in the comedy world is write this show and perform this show with my favorite people. I love the Ant, but yeah, most of the stuff I did was at Go Comedy. I mean, I got immersed like immediately there and just like did every single thing I could.
When did you pivot from improv into doing the like duo shows and character work and things like that? My first class was in August of 2013, late July, August of 2013. And then it was, I just like was taking classes. I was like ushering there. I was doing everything I could. All the while I was like I had just started my program at University of Michigan Public Health School. So it was kind of an odd tandem life I was living. But just was like doing as much improv as possible and taking in as much improv as possible. And I took my first sketch class in 2014, almost a year later. And that program culminated in a student sketch show that we didn't perform in, but we like wrote and got to cast. And that kind of started my love of sketch. I mean, I had always loved it, but it was sort of like the first like foray that I got into like sketch writing. Mm-hmm. And sort of from there, it was like, oh man, the whole like writing piece is really exciting as well. And I find that I like kind of have like a different voice with writing than I do with improv. But anyway, that kind of morphed into just like, I'm going to do any type of comedy I can get my hands on. I was interested in everything. I still am. It's one of my biggest problems. I mean, you've done a lot of character bits online since the stay-at-home order stuff started. And you were doing that anyway a good bit, and you're on sketch team, a couple of different sketch teams in New York. So you're doing a lot here. You're still fully immersed, as you say. I'm curious to go back to something you mentioned about how your voice is a little different for scripted things when you write for sketch. And I do see when you're performing, I still see you do your fun, free thing on stage when you are performing in sketch, as I see when you're performing improv. But I do know what you're talking about when you say you have a different voice a little bit. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, I will try, because I still don't know if I totally get it. But what I will say is, like, when I sit down to write something, it often is like a little bit more like joke writing and like formulaic in that way. And it's like, at least when I first started writing sketch, a lot of it tends to be this like methodical kind of like, the like sarcasm / satire is like a big part of it. And it feels like I have a very hard time like getting my like absurdity sort of like love of that clowny performance style into writing. So if ever there's like character bits or whatever, I often am like just either, if there's any writing, it's like just writing ideas down of like, oh, here's like a line, or here's a topic that this person can say, rather than like writing a sketch about it. I feel like when I write sketch, it definitely is that more like, okay, well, gotta follow this formula. That's I think what I've taken away. But tell me if you see something different too.
I don't know if I would say it's like formulaic, but I do see what you're saying about maybe it's a little more satirical. And so maybe the sort of things that you would joke about when you're writing a character bit or a sketch is different than the sort of stuff that you would joke about in an improv scene. And maybe it's because the spontaneity of improv maybe
totally
is the reason for that.
That's a great point. Like there's always those like workshops and classes you can take to like improv to sketch and whatever. And I just think for me, and I know that's the whole way that Second City functions. So I value that process, and I think there's like definitely it makes sense. But for me, like to just do a random improv scene, if it's very funny, usually it's not going to be funny if you write it or if it's on paper. I mean, I'm sure there are things you can take from it, but usually what's so funny to me about performing improv or watching my favorite improv is that we're all in a room together and like someone just this like situation is created. It's not funny on paper. It's that it's being made up. So I don't know. I think it's like different joys for me. And tomorrow I may like realize like, Julia, what the fuck were you talking about? But I think that's how I feel right now.
But
I guess this is what I'll add. The improv to sketch type thing, I find valuable when like you're given a premise and then you can improvise inside of that premise. Kind of like you were talking about with just like straight up acting. You know who you are and you know what the situation is going to be, and all it means is now you get to improvise your reactions, your emotions, your however it's going to be. And I think that is a very valuable skill and process.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
I have to talk. I mean, I can't not talk about Detroit and all of the performing you did there without mentioning previous and recent guest, Nicole Pascaretta.
Yes.
Who is amazing.
My love.
You met each other there and you started doing a lot together there. You started working on things together there. Uh-huh. She went over how you all developed, from her perspective, the trilogy, the duo show that you did.
The Twins trilogy, yes.
Yes. Yeah. What is your perspective on how you approached creating that show?
Well, first of all, I'll say I listened to that episode, Jason, and you guys were very nice. My heart was beating 100 miles per hour, as scientifically. But yeah, Nicole, I mean, you meet Nicole and you're like, okay, she's different.
Yeah, in the best way possible.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we bonded pretty early over just like being weird together. Mm-hmm. And, you quote movie lines with all your friends. I feel like that's universal. And it's just like a shared like reference level with like each different person. Like where are we bonding over? But it's something different when like Nicole and I have like a language that we speak. And a lot of it comes from our like love for just like reenacting movie lines and the way she'll like say certain things. And it's just like when you have these people who's like will say a line in a certain way, it's like, yes, you get me. And I think that is like a huge part of like comedy. People fucking love like redoing things. But anyway, we had a shared like absolute passion for Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
We like further than just like saying lines from it. It was like, yeah, this movie like shaped my life. And I went to, so she mentioned that James Quesada, my boyfriend, and
your quote unquote boyfriend.
That's my favorite bit. I legally, because of payment issues, have to say that he is my boyfriend. But there's really no actual evidence of it, which is funny.
Yeah, just so the audience knows, I started teasing Julia because after knowing you kind of for a year, I found out you had a boyfriend. Like there was some reference to him, and I was like, "Oh, you have a boyfriend? I've not seen anything that would prove this. You know, like I had no idea that you that you were seeing somebody, and then and someone's like, yeah, they've been together for years, and I was like, how is there no evidence of this on like Instagram or something? And there was never any reference to him, and you never talked about him.
He's such a small part of my life that it's like,
and he's not though, because you do a bunch of stuff together.
I love him so much. I mean, I think part of that stems from he's just like not a big social media person. I was like,
but then it didn't make it any better that when I finally did meet him, we were all together and getting ready for a show, and he walked through and you spoke to each other, and then in saying goodbye, you shook hands. So I was like, this is not a real relationship.
Is that weird?
Who shakes hands with their boyfriend or girlfriend of years?
Yeah. And you know what? And that probably stems from we're waiting to kiss until we both turn 35. And that's something that's been so important to me, you know.
You're waiting until marriage to kiss.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
A firm handshake.
A firm handshake will do. Move along and watch my show and laugh.
It wasn't even like one extended the hand for a handshake and the other just was like, huh? What are you doing that? You both just shook hands like it was normal.
It's so funny. I should take one small tangent and just say that I love him so much for so many reasons, but one is because our sense of humor together is so weird, and he's probably my favorite person to perform with, especially improv wise. We have a duo called Quicksand, and it's just like the I feel like that's where, you know, we talk about like trust and like knowing that whatever you say or do will be like supported by the other person. I feel that way playing with James because I just know that we both like, one, we know each other so well, and two, we both have that like just like anything weird, we're gonna take that and amplify it and blow it up and do it 100 times weirder.
Yeah.
Hence a handshake instead of a warm embrace.
That's so funny. Well,
yeah.
That bit is over now. I know that you two are truly together. And from what I've seen of him, which is not much, he's a very funny guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's so funny. I mean, so he actually, I'm going to go on record saying he was my first improv teacher.
Problematic.
Yeah, we didn't start dating until
I know. Yeah, I'm totally teasing.
Out of classes and everything. But yeah, I mean, he's just like a phenomenal improviser and performer and director, and like he can basically do everything. So he's always someone that I was like excited to like work with on that level, because he's just like so professional and like has great artistic vision. And so we had been dating by this time. I think it was like a couple of years into Nicole and my being at Go Comedy and being involved with the theater. But James coached, Nicole mentioned this, I know, but he coached competitive speech and acting. Forensics, it's called in certain parts of the U.S. And so there was like a competition that he was guest judging at. I don't actually, you know what? He may have been coaching at the time, but anyway, I went to go see the that competition at one of the local high schools because he always like talks about it, and he coaches this like these groups that will take some sort of piece of art or like some sort of story in some way and create like a performative theatrical retelling of it, or however they interpret that piece of art. They do a 3 to 5 minute piece on it. And so he would like talk about this, but there's no like way to really understand it until you like see it. So I went to see this, and one of the things that I was like totally blown away by, there's groups that do like duos and multiples. So there's like 2-person ones and there's like 5-person ones. I don't know. Someone else would be able to explain this better. But the ones I remember is like this duo they took Beetlejuice and they compacted it into like a couple, a few minute piece, and they'll jump into different characters in a way to like tell this story, not by trying to like do it as quickly as possible in like a 3-minute time span, which that kind of performance has its own value, but they'll take what's like valuable about that piece of art to them and either tell like a different story based on it or their own sort of spin on that story. And I also remember like a duo doing 500 Days of Summer, which I'm much more familiar with than Beetlejuice. And I was like, this is cool as fuck. So I thought we could do something. I like came back with that and I told Nicole like, okay, I bet we could like create some sort of show about our love for The Parent Trap using this sort of like performance style. And I bet you James would direct it. And she was in. She's amazing. And one thing about Nicole, the desire to like do something with Nicole is, I think like it makes so much sense to me because she's just like, you take some idea to her and like she's 100% in your camp. Like that's so important to have people like that in your life. And I like completely love her for so many reasons. But one, she's just like, yep, let's figure out a way to do it. We're doing it for sure. And so we brought it to James and he's like, yeah, I would love to direct something like that. And first of all, so I'll get into the process, but I just talked for so long. So let me know if you have any.
No. I love all that information. That was a really interesting approach. When you did start sort of writing, from your point of view, what sort of things were you trying to do with the piece and how were you trying to do it?
That's a great question. I think it's sort of a reenactment, but like bring to life in a new way what this like movie meant to us, even just through like doing like little lines from it and knowing what parts we thought were so funny in specific ways, like characters or actors would like say something in that movie is so funny. And I'll say it again, like people do this stuff online now. Like, I mean, it's like a whole phase of like comedy we're into of like people like lip syncing things and, whatever the fuck. But there was just something like really special about like our relationship to this movie and like what it like meant to us even now as adults, and how like as a kid you watch these movies and it just like I'll speak for myself, but like that movie especially just like consumed me. I wanted to be in that movie. I wanted to be every character in that movie. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to live in London. I wanted to live in Napa. I wanted to be every part of every single piece of that. And I think that is sort of like how I feel about art that sort of like I get so inspired by. I like want everything to do with it in an almost unhealthy way. But as soon as we started like writing, I mean, Nicole mentioned that James would give us like little assignments to do. The first most obvious one would be like, okay, so write the plot of that movie just like from memory. Take, write as much as you need to, but, try to keep it condensed to like no more than like 3 pages or whatever. So we both like went off and just like wrote the plots of these movies, and we both have unique voices in general. And so just in how we are retelling what this movie is, our like comedic voice totally just like came out of even that first assignment of like telling the story of like how Hallie and Annie like first met at camp. It was like Hallie was being a total bitch And Annie was just like all, proper. And they like meet and it's like, Annie's like, okay, we look alike. But Hallie's like, fuck you. No, we don't. And it's like, okay, now that's in writing. And it's like, oh, what kind of retelling of a movie is this? And it just sort of became like literally our voices as like purely as possible. And then came all of like, the layers and layers of other types of like performance and writing and like working in the more like epic quality of it that became the like Lord of the Rings twist. On top of just like that retelling it in our own words kind of style.
That's a really interesting approach to that. I like that a lot. Like just it's almost like a life hack way of finding your voice is just to, don't watch the movie again. Don't read a breakdown, just from your memory, what happened. And you just sort of say, okay, well, this is what happened and why these different plot points happened. That's a great little trick.
Yeah, that's a great point because like, I don't think I even thought about it in that way when we were doing it, but even Nicole mentioned it. Like, I think this is the purest form of like what our comedic voices are. The like finished product of the show, I think, is like the purest form of what our voices are. But even just like writing freehand stream of consciousness, like of what how you remember a plot is totally, I think, will be telling of like what things are funny to you, what your voice is.
Yeah. When you so there's a story that Nicole told about putting the show up here in New York and Horatio Sands showing up, but he was drunk and thought it was improv and wanted to join the show. What was your perspective of that event?
That's so funny. I mean, that story is so wacky and funny, like looking back on it. It was actually very weird because, I mean, Nicole mentioned we got very used to just like performing in front of 4 people. And those 4 people were usually Adam Payne, Mel Rubin, James Quesada, and maybe someone else random. But no, I mean, sometimes we had good houses or whatever. But it was so funny because we were doing that show and I noticed that someone came in and was kind of like being annoying and like talking, and I couldn't really tell if they really like wanted information about what he came in with like someone else, I feel like. And that person went back out. But I didn't know it was him. It was just like kind of talking and we know this show the back of our hand and can just like could probably carry on another conversation while doing this show. So I was sort of like doubly kind of like, all right, what's gonna come of this? And I saw Adam like trying to talk to him, and I was like, ugh. I mean, cool, there's another person like watching this show, but also annoying that they're talking. Mm-hmm. That was my reaction to it. And then they left in the middle of Act 2. We have like little act breaks where we will run back and get like water or whatever, and something plays on a screen. So during that, I noticed came back out for Act 3 and he was gone. I was like, all right, fine. End of the show, the stage manager goes to us. Well, first of all, I think Mel and Adam go, that was Horatio Sands. And I was like, no, it fucking wasn't. Nicole was like, I thought it was. And then the stage manager was like, guys, I just kicked out Horatio Sands from your show. So funny. So we were just kind of like, okay, I mean, this was shitty. And then I think the stage manager was like saying, it kind of explained that what Nicole did, that Horatio was basically looking for Ali and like a stage to drunkenly perform at. And sorry, you found 2 girls reenacting The Parent Trap in their own voices, bitch. So it is just like a weird.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's why you don't drink improv. No, I'm kidding. Well, we've now reached the end of the episode. It is time to create something together. And the thing that jumped out at me was trying to lay out the plot of something without, like, just from memory.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Maybe we can demonstrate that, but what movie should we pick? What are some movies you love?
Okay. Well, I think my favorite all-time movie besides Bear Trap is School of Rock. Always loved Zoolander.
Okay, yeah, I love Zoolander too.
Zoolander. Okay, perfect. This is always like, I'm so bad at answering this question. Of course, loved Harry Potter and all
Okay.
those movies.
My favorite movie is a movie you've probably never heard of called Real Genius. And I love Anchorman.
Oh, Anchorman, of course.
Ghostbusters.
I also think, okay, here's what I was also thinking is like, if we even choose a movie that you've seen and I haven't, or all the way around, and then the other person just tries to add in plot points that they think might happen.
So yeah, I like that idea too. The Room. Have you seen The Room with Tommy Wiseau?
No, okay. No,
that's a classic.
Except for I have seen that scene where he comes out of the
roof. And he goes, "Oh, hi, Mark."
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah. What if we did The Room?
Okay, let's do The Room. And then I'll see what I'll see what I get right.
Okay. I think they are straight up sawing a wall off of I think they're doing an open concept and they are sawing.
And Jason, you want to know what? It's a wall of The Room. See?
So that's why it's fitting to do The Room. So The Room, here's the plot of The Room.
Okay. Here's the plot of The Room. Here's the plot of The Room as told by us.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So a guy, Johnny, is very successful, very good at his job, I should say.
Yeah, he's actually the first billionaire of his line of work.
Yeah, and he wants a promotion. And
obviously,
he's been working hard.
Always want promotions.
Yes, and he's engaged to Lisa, and things are going well. The job's going well, and he and his fiancée Lisa do it a lot.
They do, yeah. They do it because they're trying to prove something. I mean, again, I hate to harp on this, but the billionaire thing, she wouldn't love him if it weren't for his money and the sex, and that's why she there's those scenes where she's telling her sister yeah, no, I don't really love him, but I have to marry him.
Well, yes, her sister is what you say.
Yeah.
That's who that was. And he gets screwed over at work. And then his relationship starts tanking because she just decides she doesn't love him anymore. And it's probably because of the promotion.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, Johnny, I have to come clean. I've been telling my sister this whole time, and now I'm going to tell you that the only reason I love you is because you were about to get a promotion, but not anymore. She goes.
Right. And then his best friend is around. He's a guy who knows Mark. Mark is the best friend. He knows Tommy. Yeah. And they hang out. They've done marathons together. They throw the football around in the park, 6 feet from each other because social distancing.
Yeah.
And that's how you throw a football.
You had to social distance.
Right.
Had to social distance.
And,
only 6 feet because there was that part where Mark can't throw the ball actually longer than 6 feet.
Exactly. That's what people don't realize about that scene. And then Lisa starts trying to seduce Mark. And he was not into it when she first called him. When she first called him, he was like, "What's going on? I'm busy." And he's just sitting in a car. I have no idea what he's doing. I don't know what he does for a living. He's sitting in a car.
He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a job. And that's why Lisa was calling him. Because she's like, hey, I want to really stick it to Tommy,
yeah. No, Johnny. I'm sorry, Johnny.
Okay.
A classic American name,
Yeah. Because, I told him I'm leaving him for his money, but wouldn't it be great if I started sleeping with his best friend who was poor?
Yeah, who is busy somehow. And all the while, Johnny is he is not aware of what's going on. He is buying her red dresses. He is going to the flower shop and talking to doggies and buying flowers for her. And he doesn't drink. He's a teetotaler, and he doesn't drink. But then one night after Lisa has done it at least twice with Tommy and at least twice with Mark.
And she's trying to keep it even too. She's trying to keep it like the tallies even. She's got that wall with like the tallies.
And so she's like, I'm gonna trick this guy. So she's like, gets him drunk. She orders pizza, his favorite kind of pizza. Why? Yeah, I guess.
Domino's green pepper.
It's just there already. Because she's like, I ordered pizza. She asked for like extra cheese or something. And I don't know. She asked for a bunch of stuff on it, but they're just two plain pizzas that they eat. And she gets them super drunk. And like, I don't know what the name of this cocktail is, but there's a brown liquor in a glass, and then she pours vodka in that, and it's straight. There's no ice. There's no mixer. It's not like Coke. It is like bourbon.
It's called
with vodka in it.
It's called an Americano.
Yes.
Not to be confused with a coffee drink.
Right. And so that's what he drinks, and he gets wasted. He's dropping glasses.
Did you know it was alcohol then?
She talked him into drinking it, which he drank because he was so upset about getting screwed over at work.
Right. Okay.
Everything else in his life, in his mind, is fine. He's just like mad that they've been implementing the changes that he made, but they then pass him up on promotion, even though he was promised his promotion.
Ideas. Yeah.
Right. Classic. So he was like upset enough to drink, to be drawn to the drink. And he gets wasted. Right. He gets wasted, and then they do it again. And
that's three for Johnny.
Right. Meanwhile, her mom shows up a couple times, says hello, complains about her brother, complains about just family business stuff when it's like the parents have died, and you're trying to deal with the estate. And then on top of all that, she's definitely dying. Her mom got breast cancer results back, and she definitely has it, which she matter-of-factly says.
Yeah, she says it. She totally says it. Weirdly, the sister that Amy, what's her name?
I think it is Amy. It's something.
Okay.
She's Amy. Showing up.
She's showing up too.
And she and some dude are doing it. In Johnny and Lisa's place. I don't know why they show up there to do it, but that's what they do.
But they did. But yeah, it's nicer because he used to have money.
Just their couch, right? Exactly.
Right, exactly.
So they get caught by Lisa and the mom doesn't like it. And also running in and out of this place is Denny boy. Denny is in school. And Johnny, he's such a good guy, and he's so rich that he is paying for little Denny boy to go to school. And Denny is a horn dog because he wants to kiss Lisa because she looks so nice in the red dress that Tommy
Johnny bought her from Macy's.
Right. But he doesn't get any from Lisa because Lisa isn't into that unless cheating involves Mark, who she continues to cheat with.
Yeah, she's got her hands full with both Johnny and Mark, and the tallies are taking up the full wall, so she can't add tallies for Denny.
Right. Then there's an incident with Denny because he's got everything. He's getting his tuition. He can hang out at this house whenever he wants, watch people do it. And yet he still wants to do drugs. And so he gets involved somehow with drugs. Somehow. He just has some drugs. And he didn't pay for the drugs, but he got the drugs and he used the drugs.
I'm pretty sure.
And this guy, Chris R., shows up to get his mother effing money for these drugs because Denny hasn't given him the money for the drugs. I have no idea. It just seems like Denny just snorted all the drugs or did all the drugs, but he didn't pay for the drugs because what a lot of people don't realize is drug dealers constantly give you drugs before you've paid for them. And that's what happened here. But he got real, real mad and brought a gun, and Denny almost got shot. But thankfully, Mark and Johnny were there to save the day. Mark just takes the Chris R. to the police, just takes him. So citizen's arrest.
Good. Yeah, because Chris R., I mean, bottom of his heart, knows that he's like being a bad guy right now. Even though it's literally Denny's fault for just like taking and doing the drugs without paying. Like Chris R. knows like, I can't kill anyone.
Right. So that's exactly what happens there. And then it's time for the birthday party that Lisa has been planning for Johnny.
Course.
And at the birthday party,
29th.
His 29th birthday party. And at the birthday party, she does a great job. She brings all of his favorite people. She has drinks. She's got the Americanos. She's got it all. She thought of everything.
Good.
And then she decides to reveal that she is with child.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why I'm gasping because I'm familiar with this movie, but I'm gasping as you all, the audience, because it's like, whose baby?
Exactly. And that's what Mark says. Now, Johnny, not knowing about Mark, assumes that it's his. But Mark is like, takes Lisa aside and is like, hey, is it mine? And she's like, shut up, and slaps him. And yeah, it was intense. And then the party just goes back to normal. And a few minutes later, she and Mark start dancing together a bit too hardcore. And then Johnny's like, hey, what are you doing with my woman?
What are you doing?
Yeah. He's just like, hey, man, you're my best friend. Like, this is my fiance who is with my child.
My child.
And then,
like,
right. And then a fight starts, right? They get into a fight at Johnny's birthday party. And Mark's like, if you had keeping your girl satisfied, she wouldn't have to come to me. Now, Johnny has no reason to know what that statement means. In his mind, it's like, if I kept her satisfied, I'd do it with her a lot. Why? And even if I wasn't keeping her satisfied, why would she be dancing with you?
Exactly. Because it's not like she was like a big dancer at all. She never expresses that before.
Exactly. So for him, he's just thinking like, this is suspicious. So I'm going to start recording messages.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He starts recording the phone calls.
Exactly.
And then he listens.
Has the government involved.
It has the government involved. And then the government, I guess, keys him in on something. So he and Lisa get in this big fight because she's acting crazy.
She's crazy.
And he's like, well, I'm going to listen to this tape that me and the government put together. And he hears Lisa telling Mark, like having a conversation with Mark about coming over. And Mark lives in the building. So it's like, wouldn't take long.
Be a huge deal. She needed sugar. She needed flour or something. Yeah.
Right. So Johnny gets pissed. He's like, this is some BS. I'm going to the bathroom. And I'm going to lock myself in here because it's my birthday. And
his bathroom's nice because he's rich.
Right. And she's like, when are you coming out of the bathroom? And he's like, in a minute, bitch. Direct line. And then he doesn't get out in a minute. Like there's still this whole back and forth. And then she's like, well, I'm leaving. And so she leaves, and then he gets out and he starts reminiscing about the good times, like when he bought her flowers or bought her a dress or did it a bunch, or when he pet a dog.
All the good times you do, all the important parts of the dog. Yep. All the important parts of a relationship.
Right. That happened within the previous week. That's all that he's envisioning in his mind. And then he takes his own life with a gun that he took from Chris R. So it's Denny's fault.
Oh my God. Wait, when did he say, oh, hi, Mark?
Oh, so this is an important plot point.
Okay. We're going back.
The night that he got drunk and did it with Lisa, that's all that happened. But the next day, Lisa tells her mom that Johnny hit her. And her mom's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, he got drunk last night. And her mom was like, he doesn't drink. And that's pretty much it. Like, she just leaves. Because, like, why? And then for somehow, some way, Johnny hears that he's being accused of hitting her. We don't see that. It's just what happened.
But believe women. Yeah.
Right. So he goes to the roof and is like, I didn't hit her. It's bullshit. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, right. Wait, so he's saying all those things to himself?
He was talking to himself. Because when you go out on the roof of your building just to blow off steam because you're so mad at your significant other, you just say things out loud to yourself at not a very loud volume.
The things you say out loud should be denying anything you've been accused of. Be sure to say those within like earshot of anyone who may, be around you.
Right.
I did not steal that necklace. I did not steal that necklace. Just to make sure that everyone knows that you didn't steal that necklace. But keep going. And then he sees Mark.
Yeah. And then Mark, he's like, what are you doing here, Mark? And Mark's just up there thinking. And that's that scene. And that happens as a pivotal moment in the middle of the movie. It is passionate. It is an intense movie. And one might even say it has the passion of Tennessee Williams.
Wow. Okay. The movie ends with him taking his own life?
His own life, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
With a gun that he took from a drug dealer who wanted his money from someone who should have paid him for the drugs he gave him.
Oh, so Chris R. was coming to
collect
Johnny for the money.
No, he's going to Denny.
Okay.
But when Johnny and Mark saved Denny, he took Johnny's gun. He took Chris R's gun, and he kept it for some reason, even though it's evidence.
But also, here's my question. Why is Chris R... why do we say the first initial of his last name?
I don't know. It's his name on the streets and his rap name.
No, we're not talking about Chris.
We're not just talking about any old Chris. Yeah, we're talking about Chris R. specifically.
Oh my God, that's so great. Yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah. You know what? I do love that movie so much, and having, gone back over that in our recap really is special. But Jason, I'm very impressed with you. I mean, that was some good recall of like the plot of this movie, and it was riveting.
Yeah, thank you. And now we can make a movie based on it, or a play based on it, or a sketch show.
Yeah, we can make a play / sketch show that's very different from The Disaster Artist, but will be a two woman forensic style show about the room.
There it is. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Julia.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Jason. This was a blast.
It was a blast. Really great having her on. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And I hope you check out Julia online. You can find her on Twitter at jschroeder04 and on Instagram at jules1090. I don't know what any of those numbers mean. if 04 is when she was born, she's 16 years old. That's not possible. Or is she 116 years old? I don't know. Nevertheless, folks, check those things out. Links in bio. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at There It Is Pod. And we also have a newsletter that you should check out. It is a comedy lifestyle newsletter, and it's free. Until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.